Welcome to Week of Webisodes Stamp Camp. Now we're starting it off with a bang. Teresa Welch just completed a DVD called Stamp Camp number 2, because last year she did Stamp Camp number 1. And it's just full of wonderful things.
Right. The DVD has about 100 cards on it, 65 techniques. We're going to show you about 20 of those today, 20 of the cards, and some of the techniques too. They're amazing techniques that Teresa has come up with.
Yes, so sit back, relax, and join us. You're going to have a great time. Come play with us. I'm really excited to bring you this collection. The heart of it is the DVD, but there's also stamps and papers. We'll show you that in a second. Here's the DVD. It is Teresa's Stamp Camp number 2, and it has, like Gail said, 100 cards shown, 65 techniques, and 8 hours of video. So the deal is, for every technique, you see it actually executed by me. And just to give you a hands-on, and there are 11 chapters, and we'll be going through some of that today on the webisode.
Right. So it also includes this stamp set. Now, there are 17 stamps in this set. They come from 9 different hot-off-the-press stamp sets. And so there's a little bit of holiday, there's some ferns, flowers, lots of ideas, and they're used multiple times within the DVD.
Exactly. And then to coordinate with that, we put together the 6x6 paper pack, and it too is a combination of, I think it's 6 different paper packs. So what we've done is these are papers that are double-sided, and we made sure, like, this is out of the Penelope paper pack that Teresa uses. So the papers that are from that pack that she used are on one side. On the other side, Teresa used Christmas lace. So some of those papers are here.
Right. So they're double-sided, but they're not necessarily coordinated from this side to the other.
Exactly.
It's just that you get the advantage of having 2 different paper sets on,
multiple paper sets, multiple. Yeah. So this is out of botanical etchings, and so is this, and so is this. But on the back side, these 3 are from Homegrown. So it goes like that through the book. There are 2 of each, and there are instructions for some projects using these papers as well as the stamp set. So,
and they're shown in the DVD as well.
Absolutely. Now, let's get into the DVD.
Yeah.
When you click on the DVD, the first thing you're going to see is this home page, and it's going to show you the 11 chapters, and then there's a video where you can watch me say hi.
11 chapters.
11 chapters, yes.
And each one of those chapters is filled with different techniques.
Absolutely. Different techniques, different products. So we're going to start with chapter 4, which is the embossing chapter. This is what you would see. So as you can see, with each technique, this is an emboss resist, you get 2 cards. So you can click on the video, and you can click on each card. And the first card that we're going to show you is this one, and it is called Selective Embossing. Now, we're going to do a couple of demos, but we really want to just show you, give you a taste of what's in this DVD. So here is the card that Teresa did. The instructions would follow this. It'd be the next page. So that's kind of how that DVD looks.
So it's a beautiful card. It's using the Penelope papers and this great silhouette stamp of this flower.
The thing that was so surprising to me, okay, now I'm not a hugely experienced stamper, but I mean, I kind of know my way around a heat tool.
So.
Yeah, but I never thought of doing selective embossing. So what Teresa did, you want to bring the pen in?
Right here. It's a Versamarker. So this is like the Versamark stamp pad, but it's in a pen, and you've got this fine tip on this end, and on the other end, it's more stylized like a brush.
Right. And so what Teresa has done is after she stamped her rose, she went back and used the pen just on the tips of the, faux, demonstrate that.
Yeah. So she would have went around on some of them like this and just sort of touched lightly in just the areas, maybe on the veins.
Well, first she would do the rose because we're going to use 2 different colors. So along the tips of the blossoms, and And then she used the embossing powder, heated it. Then she went back and used the same pen on the veins and the edges of her leaves and used the green. And you know, I just think that's gorgeous.
It is. It's gorgeous. You know, it's really simple too. It's forgiving. You don't have to be super accurate about it.
But you have to have the idea.
Right.
And, you know, it just never occurred to me. I think about the Versamark ink pad, and that's kind of as far as I go.
Well, you have to stretch your boundaries a little bit. Think about new things.
And thank you, Teresa, for stretching my boundaries. Now, the second card in this little area about selective embossing is the tree stamp. This, too, is on that stamp set. And what she did was to give some areas of snow.
Right. First, she stamped it in brown Stays-On.
Right.
Then she went with the Versamark pen and just highlighted little areas like right there where the branch meets the tree and around on the bottom.
Right.
And she used two different embossing powders. She used superfine white and a little of silver detail embossing powder.
Right.
Mixed them together a little bit.
Now, we'll back up to see this card. So in this case, both of the papers, both of the stamps are in the paper pack and in the stamp set. So this is kind of going on. So this is one teeny tiny little part. Now let's go. We're still in the embossing section. This is the chalkboard, which is such a popular look.
I love this. This is just done on black cardstock.
We'll get in really close because there is a shadow, and I'm just not sure if the camera's going to pick that up.
Okay, well, I can see it. I hope you can, because what she did was she stamped it. First, I believe she embossed it.
Yes, she did.
And I've done it both ways, but the way she did it was embossed it. She used the Versamark, went over it with the superfine white embossing powder.
Right.
Heat embossed it, and then she went back with the white, cloud white, I think it is, Stays-On, and just offset it a little bit, the whole stamp off to the right just a little bit, and stamped that white on there and got a bit of a shadow.
Now, the other thing that Teresa adds for this look are two things. One is using the white pen just to have those lines around it.
Right, which she used a ruler to get that nice and straight.
She did. The other thing she did, and again, I'm not sure if it's showing up, and I'm not sure if we, John, can we get closer? Okay, thank you. Is that she would go back with some of the white Stays-On and just kind of rub it over some areas. I think
just with her finger, just a little bit like there's chalk on the chalkboard. I think you can see it better on here.
I think so too.
Like it's almost a little halo effect.
So she gives us this and gives us the steps and kind of ratchets it up a notch if you want to do those lines and that smudging. And then she gives us another card, and this is a Christmas one. And in the DVD, you'll see that she gives us some information about how to put this together, because this is using 1, 2, 3, 4 different stamps, 5 different stamps.
Right. She laid out her idea first on that black cardstock and then started stamping where she knew it was going to look good.
And I thought it was a fun look. This is very stark, very clear and bright. On the inside, she just did it with the white Stays-On. It gives a much more muted look, but it really just has a nice difference from the front.
And in this one, again, she used that smearing, just a little bit of it, just lightly touching it and then putting it on there.
Okay, moving on quickly. This is another embossing that Teresa did, and she calls it Faux cloisonné. So it is that type of...
it's like the cloisonné jewelry.
Yes, it is. Where there's paper and colors, and they are each separated with a gold or probably silver lines. And Teresa did a really nice thing in this, is that on the DVD, she shared with us what didn't work.
What didn't work, and she's got samples here of the different tries that she made. And she says that you want to pick a paper that's not too busy, because here you notice you can't really see. She's got that gold embossing on there. You can see it if you turn it like this, but it just doesn't show up as well. And even on this one, she thought the colors were just a little bit too similar. So down here, she chose a darker paper. Well, while it shows up a little better, still that pattern paper just seems to overpower.
So this is like Goldilocks. This one wasn't quite right, and this one was too soft, this was too hard, and this one was just right. And you have a paper that's similar to this into that paper pack. Okay, here is another. Now we're still on one chapter of this DVD. She calls this Split embossing.
Split negative.
Split negative embossing,
Yes.
you're right. And what Teresa did was to cut 2 pieces of cardstock, same size.
And she temporarily adhered them
Yes.
to she used temporary adhesive, put them on here, stamped that stamp on there with her Versamark stamp pad.
Right.
And then she removed each one. So you're seeing it already embossed, but there would be the Versamark on there. Then you would remove it from that paper. And then you would go ahead and dust 1/2 with the white embossing powder.
Right.
And dust the other half with what she used, brown
Right.
embossing powder. Then you emboss them with your heat gun, and when you put them back together, you get the look that's
You have
on
a
the card.
completed look. And so here is how this is going. So a really fun look, very, again, just kind of taking it up a notch. And on the inside of our card, so notice the red cardstock is on the left on the front. On the inside, the red is on the right. A small thing, but a nice designer touch. And it's nice to have Teresa guiding us in that.
That's great.
Now, again, still in the embossing chapter, this is just a fun little detail and one that I just learned. So the fact that you can do embossing on chipboard.
Right.
Now, it never occurred to me. So we'll get in really close. So Teresa has some chipboard pieces that she has embossed. You see the shine on that button.
Right.
But on this one, she used one of the tinsel glitter embossing powders.
And she notes that when you do this, they're such small pieces that she likes to use tweezers to hold
Yeah.
on to it. That way her fingers don't get burned when you're embossing. I've also done, especially with the buttons, I've put a skewer in the hole and just kind of held it down to the paper while I'm embossing.
Yeah,
So it doesn't fly away.
It just gives a really nice little bit of shine and, in this case, glitter. Now, you're going to get some other things whenever Teresa is showing us, and that is some of her wonderful ribbon techniques.
Right.
This is one I particularly love. So she's got her button, her chipboard button that she's embossed, and she did a soft knot in this length of ribbon, threaded it through, and then that just fills up the space on her button. Probably do another one going the other way.
Right.
Here is what it looks like on this card, and we'll
It's
get
tone on tone here, so it's
Yeah.
not quite as vivid, but that is such a cute look. I've always liked that. And a knot on the top, and here comes the ribbon out from underneath.
just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Okay, now we're going into masking. This is a different chapter, and what I love is the look of this. I think that is just so striking. And Teresa showed us. You've got that?
How we did it.
Yeah.
She starts with her blank card, and she placed 2 pieces of masking tape.
Actually, this is stencil tape because
stencil tape.
tape is not going to tear our paper. So simply placing them, you can see away from the fold, and then also, and she gives you the measurements in the DVD.
And she used distress ink for this one. She used crushed olive and chipped sapphire, and all the specifications for that are on the DVD. And then she took her stylus and she just put it on there in between the masked areas. And then had the 2 inks meet in the middle.
Right.
So you just continue that down till you get down to the middle. Once they're in the center, then you're going to blend them together. I'm just going to show the one. You just continue on down like that.
And then, of course, what will happen when you're done is that you pull this off. You have that straight edge. And then Teresa has the stamping on top. That leaf is on the stamp set that we showed you.
Right.
And it's just such a striking piece. On the inside, she did another take on it, again with the strip that she did the dabbing on with the ink pads, but doing it horizontally this time.
And I love how the stamps, they go on and off the masked area.
How
That's
gorgeous.
just a beautiful look. And this one is embossed right here.
Right. Just gorgeous.
look.
Now, speaking of masking, Teresa has yet another look for us. And this is snowdrifts. And the patterns are in the instructions. And you have an example for us?
So here is a piece of cardstock. This is how, when she started, this was all white. So you can imagine it all white. And then she cuts pieces and temporarily adheres them on.
Let's show that separately. There you go. No,
Okay.
This one, yeah. So
So
that's
here's a
one of the
piece,
pieces.
And there's a pattern for it. The template is in the DVD, and you just set that on there like that, And then she used a sponge or a stylus and brushed the ink on just like that to get this effect. And when you remove it, you've got that snowdrift with a little bit of a backdrop.
And then same thing, there's a second layer.
Same thing, there's a second, then you lay down the second layer.
Which is why you start from the bottom, going up.
And then you've got this piece.
Remove it.
And the second layer. And once you lay this one down, then you go ahead and complete the rest of it all the way up. And when you remove it, you've got these beautiful snowdrifts.
Now, this is the sample that I did on camera for the DVD. Teresa used a darker blue, and that's how she accomplished this look. Now, notice that she's also combined a couple of other techniques that we've just learned, one of which is offsetting that stamping. That was that chalkboard look.
Right.
Well, she's done it here with white against the...
Actually, this is a little bit different.
Okay.
When I read it, I was surprised. She actually, she did the stamp first in black. And then she used Versamark and used, clear embossing powder on top of it. And so then when she inked over it, it resists on the clear. So she didn't use white, she used that clear. And so you've got that gloss on there.
Right. And then also that selected embossing right there to get the snow. And so very fun to see several techniques coming together on one.
It's beautiful.
Now, we are going into, there is a chapter on embossing folders. Now, you might say, well, why would embossing folders be on a stamp DVD? Well, it's because we're going to use stamping materials on it. And this particular one is something that I hadn't played with, that you can take acetate and use it on your embossing folders.
Right, and you get this, it has to be kind of a lighter weight acetate, and you get this great look, but if you want it to show up more, then you get out your white StazOn ink and rub a little bit just with your finger into some of the raised areas.
And it just gives it a little more contrast, but
a little more pop.
You're getting the shine with the acetate, but you're also getting that bit of color. So just a beautiful look on this card.
Beautiful. All of these cards are just gorgeous.
They are. And she did it again on the inside. And what's nice about the embossing folder is that you're going to get that dimension, and yet it still stays pretty flat.
Right.
So that's one of the embossing folder techniques. Here is another.
This is one of my favorites.
Do you like this?
So it started out on cardstock. Here's that focal piece that we're looking at here. And she embossed it, and then she took a brayer and used Versamark across the whole top of that raised area.
Right.
Dusted it with her embossing powder and heat set it.
And on the inside, here is another look of it on a dark purple. So you can really see the contrast really well on TV.
She said she didn't worry too much about getting just little bits in the areas around it. You know, it's a great look. It's a textured look. It doesn't have to be perfect.
So forgive yourself if it's not perfect. That's okay.
A little bit of gold specialty paper underneath, matted.
Just a smidge. So a beautiful look. Now, another with the embossing folder, and this one on the gold.
Right. So this one, she didn't, some of these, we'll use the brayer like on the folder, but for this one, she went ahead and embossed on gold. And I'm going to put down a craft sheet and show you here real quick.
You've done an embossed one for us?
I've embossed it in gold already.
Okay, good. This is just the gold specialty paper. It's not a very heavyweight paper, so it embosses quite nicely.
Right, and I've got my StazOn black here.
Okay.
And I've got a brayer, which looks like this. And you want to make sure it's a well-inked stamp pad. And you want to ink.
We say that because often we pick up stamp pads that are not well inked.
Well, I well inked this one, so it better well work, you know.
Okay.
So then you want to make sure that you've got lots of ink on your brayer. And so I'm doing that a couple of different ways to make sure it's covered. And then I'm going to kind of lightly go over it. We just want to get one of those areas. If you don't want to get it on the center, I normally would have taken the time to mask off the center to make sure that I didn't get it on there, but I just wanted to show you. So I'll try to go around the edges.
But how striking this is. Yeah. And it actually is easier to use the brayer. You have a little bit more control than if you had taken the ink pad directly on it. Mm-hmm. So there you go. and I'm going to go back to Teresa's card. And in this particular one, do you see the brown that's in the center? She went back to our favorite Dazzles. This is the nested frames in brown, also comes in black, but it has that gold edge, so it just blends so nicely with the gold paper, and then some stamping on the inside, and then on the inside of her cards. And by the way, all of the cards have an inside. On this one, Teresa has used an embossing folder with suede paper, and we need to get in pretty close to see this.
Oh, that's great, and she inked that too.
She did ink it, and it gives just a bit more texture to it, a little bit more definition. So pretty, and some stamping on.
That's a great look. And here's this heart stamp is actually part of another stamp that goes together, but she likes to sometimes mask off separate areas or even cut them apart and use them separately.
Now, in the embossing section, we also have this. Now, this is just, I think, gorgeous. This is a faux metallic distressed look.
It looks like metal.
It does. It's just so pretty. You can see the patina, the aged. And so we're going to just do the embossing folder again and use a series of ink pads.
Right. And on this one, she started by actually brayering ink onto the embossing folder.
Here's
the raised area.
Sample that I did on camera, and so you get a little bit more of the various colors. So there's blue, there's green, there's peach, there's also a gold. But doesn't that just make a striking definition?
It's beautiful.
She did the same thing on the inside, because why wouldn't you? Another technique that she shows us, and we're not showing you everything in these chapters, we're just giving you bits and pieces.
Because remember, there are 8 hours of techniques and cards on the video.
Yes, there are.
On the DVD.
Now, to get this technique is another use of the brayer, and you're going to show
Another
us.
use of the brayer. I've got rose coral chalk ink here, and I've got a brayer, and I'm not going to show you what happens to the paper because you can see it right there to the cardstock. But what you're going to do is you're going to ink the side that's flat. So there's it's
the deep. Yeah, okay. It's going to be
side.
flat. You're going to on your
So
embossing folder.
Side,
yeah, you're going to.
There's the flat side.
Exactly. So it's the flat side.
So you're going to ink up your brayer with. There we go. Come on, get on there. This is a squeaky one.
It is squeaky one.
Get as much ink on there as you can. I was sure this had one. Anyway, you're just going to go along this. Yeah, I can see it.
Right.
And you're going to ink this side before you emboss your cardstock.
So your paper will go on top. You'll roll it through the cutting die machine, and then what you get is the color in the flat areas, and the white cardstock is in the raised areas. So a really very, very easy way to get this look. Teresa did the same thing with brown on the inside, and isn't that just crisp with a dark color?
You know, it doesn't even look like it looks like cardstock with embossing on top
It does.
of it. I mean,
It does. It looks like it's been stamped. Yeah. So that's part of the embossing section. Now we've got a few more to go. Teresa has a chapter that's called wax paper.
This is great. This technique,
which I think is brilliant.
Cool. Yeah, it reminds me of when I was a kid. We did things with wax paper and an iron.
Okay.
If my mom was around. So she takes a piece of wax paper like this. She does that.
Crumples it up.
And then
really crumple it now.
Really crumply.
Okay.
Yeah, really. Have fun. And then pull it apart. Flatten it out.
And you see all of those crinkles that has been made. Well, that's going to get transferred to your cardstock.
Right. You're just going to set that on top of your cardstock.
Right.
You are going to put a paper on underneath your cardstock and on top of
or
the
just
wax.
Put it on your iron.
Cardstock,
yeah.
And then you iron it.
Just make sure that you got that you do want to have. So here's your cardstock. Okay, pretend this is your cardstock. You're going to put your wax paper. You're going to put a piece of scrap paper on top. Then do your iron. The iron will melt some of the wax onto the cardstock.
It's actually like this. Forgot to have this piece. So if you can see, here's the waxed areas, which you wouldn't see. It would look like that, but then when you ink over it, it looks like this because it resists wherever that wax got ironed on.
And then when you decide to put it into a card, here's how it can also look. So it is just a very fun technique, easy to do, kind of foolproof.
Yeah.
And then you just do whatever ink pads you want to.
I can see doing that over one big piece of cardstock and then using it on several different cards.
Kind of making a master one. And there's another piece on the inside.
Beautiful.
Now, Teresa also used the wax paper and put it through the embossing folder to get this look.
When you do, so here it is. It's kind of interesting that you can do that with wax paper. There's the embossed look.
Yes.
And then she did the same technique where she ironed it onto cardstock. Before she did, she stamped these ferns. She stamped the ferns onto cardstock. Then she ironed this on, and then she inked on her different chalk inks on top to get this effect.
And you get a little bit more here with the darker colors. So, and this fern is one of the stamps on that set of stamps we showed you earlier. But what a wonderful way to make a distinctive design, and you get to choose what colors.
It's beautiful. It looks to me like she did some off-stamping behind, too, because you can just see this light silhouette of ferns there.
And there's some more on the inside, going a little bit more with the greens and the golds. How pretty. Now, Teresa then also does a chapter on gelatos, and I'm really happy that she did that because they're such beautiful looks, and it's nice to have some techniques. Now, in this one, what I appreciate is that this is using the Color Me paper, and she simply used her finger to rub the gelatos into the area. So she really wanted that kind of shadow that you see of the purple around the purple. And of course, the raised areas, the white areas, are the Color Me, so they're going to resist any color. And then she went back and did more gelatos on the background.
Right, and you can just smooth those around with a tissue or your finger.
Right, or a baby wipe, yes.
That too.
So, and this next one is my absolute favorite, which is why it's on the front of the DVD, because I love this card and it's so easy.
It is beautiful.
Heat emboss with white superfine embossing powder, and then she took, again, her finger, you could use a Q-tip, whatever you want, and just rubbed the gelato, and the heat of your finger is going to melt them.
Right.
And look at that beautiful look that it provides.
And she said it's not absolutely necessary to stay within the lines. You can stay close, but it gets a bit of a halo around the edges if you don't, which is just a gorgeous look.
Very forgiving and very gorgeous. On the inside of her card, she did 2 corner treatments.
Oh, it's just beautiful.
It's just breathtaking. Now, to give you a little bit more about gelatos, Teresa did this card, which has this variegated background. You know, we're calling that the ombre look these days, but you can see it's much lighter at the top than it is at the bottom as it goes from pinks into oranges.
And the way she did that is that she took the red set of gelatos, looks like this, there's 4 of them in there, and she just started using them straight out of the tube across the top. She'd started making layers of it. Go along the top in one line like that. Then you're going to choose the next color, and you're going to cross over each a little bit and start moving down.
So they are overlapping a bit?
So they are overlapping.
Okay.
And each color you're just going to continue down. I've got one over here that's already done, and it looks like that. And then you use a baby wipe to get the colors to go together.
And then that kind of blends them so that they, do the blending part and they don't look quite as streaky as they do.
This one has sat for a while, so I don't think it's working quite as well, so I'm going to do it on this one. There, so you can see it better.
Okay, there you go.
And they just sort of, they blend together.
And it does blend into the areas that are white. And then you can go back and add more if you, if you didn't have quite as much as you wanted. So here's Teresa's finished. And then after that, she stamped. And again, this stamp is on that stamp set. So really pretty. Paper doilies are fun in the background. And then on the inside, she kind of kept this going with deeper pink into the purple.
It's like later in the sunset.
It is. And then stamped down below. So very, very fun. Now, I have some other sets that I didn't tell you about.
You didn't?
I didn't because they're just more and I forgot to pull them.
Oh,
so
beautiful.
This is tissue paper.
Oh,
There is a chapter on tissue paper, and I think it is just brilliant. This was put over an embossing folder.
So the tissue paper was put in the embossing folder?
On top of this, on top of an embossed. Another use for tissue paper is kind of shadow stamping. So you see how this truck is on the front of the tissue paper, but look at this area that was stamped on the cardstock underneath it, the tissue paper on top.
It's amazing how many looks you can get.
I know, amazing. Now there's another chapter on the Spectrum Noir pens. Now whether you use Spectrum Noir or you use Copic makes no difference because they kind of use the same. But what Teresa did was to create texture, and as we get in really close on this charming little bear, you can see that he has ruffles, he has texture. She did that with a washcloth. Just tapping it on. Clever,
cute.
clever, clever. Another thing she did to create texture is stamping on top of the Spectrum Noir pens.
Oh, so you can see that zigzag,
Look
that
at that.
chevron look.
Yeah, from a stamp.
Oh, that's great.
On a stamp.
Look at that, on a stamp.
There's another chapter on perfect pearls, which my belief is that perfect pearls are underrated, and I think they're gorgeous.
I agree.
And look at this, how striking that metallic perfect pearls is when stamped. That's the star.
On the Versamark?
Yes.
Okay.
How beautiful
and I've done
that is.
That is a beautiful look. You just Versamark it, and then you rub those perfect pearls on there and then wipe them off.
And it's just that easy. Now,
simple.
I said the one card was my favorite. Okay, this is also my favorite. This is using perfect pearls as a mixture. So we're going to lay them out, we're going to dab them, and then we're going to take our cutting die. This is the Bodacious Blooms that Teresa also designed, and put our different pieces in that mixture, and look at what you get.
Just beautiful. That is such a striking focal.
That's also drop dead gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
Now, these are, we said 20 cards. This is probably maybe 30 cards,
could be.
28. But they're all from Teresa's DVD.
And that's out of 100 of them.
Right. And you saw the stamp set, you saw the papers. What can I say except see you tomorrow?
See you tomorrow.